All right, everybody. Glad to be back this week with the ATB NFL Live Show. I have Tony with me and Zach again, of course. We're going to be talking about all the Week 12 games, making predictions as always, and we're going to talk about a couple interesting things going around the NFL. But we're actually going to start with not predictions, but actually recaps. I know we don't usually do that very much. We don't really talk about games that we, like especially the week before, anything like that. But we did have a special Thanksgiving slate of 3 games this week, so we want to talk about those, especially because some of the games were a little bit interesting, especially for playoff seeding and also just for what some of these top teams are looking like. So I want to start with the early game. We're going to go with the Bills and Lions game. Lions always play on Thanksgiving. We know that. They, of course, lost again. However, this game was much closer than most people were expecting. Most people, maybe some of you guys felt differently, but we'll talk about that in a second. Let's start with resident Bills fan Tony here. How did it feel watching that game? Do you feel even slightly okay with it, other than the fact you got the win, or how do you feel about the whole situation overall with that game?
Yeah, so I'm happy we won. I'll lead with that. I was watching at my parents' house up in Buffalo, made the drive up there. There were about like 20 of us. So I tend to not like to be around a ton of people when I'm watching Bills games. I really get into it. I need silence around me. I need to laser in, focus. You can't really do that when your grandparents are talking about guys who played on the team 10 years ago and not really understanding. But I tuned it out. I definitely wasn't as social as I should have been, but it was stressful. It was another game of this midseason slump that we've seen the Bills have, and it's kind of become a routine in the last 3-4 years. We've seen this Bills team, like, despite all the firepower and everything, the middle of the season hits and they slump. Last year we were 7-6. Questions about whether we were making the playoffs at all. Because of that, I'm not really worried about the future. Allen, he definitely looked off. He had another red zone interception that wasn't really his fault, but that 23 seconds to end the game to get into field goal range, that just laser beam to Stephon Diggs, like that's why I'm not worried, because ultimately when it comes down to crunch time, I know the guys are going to show up. And so these midseason slumps, they just keep happening, but they keep getting through it. My biggest concern, I'd say, is Ken Dorsey, just because he has become the most predictable play caller in the red zone. I think after this past Thursday game, we ranked 30th in the NFL in red zone EPA, despite ranking like 3rd in other, like, everywhere else, and just raw offensive EPA. So it's really bad. And yeah, Allen's thrown red zone interceptions. I think he has like 7 this year. He had 2 in his career going into this season. So these play designs, there's nobody schemed open. There's no easy throws. It's like the same 5 plays. And we saw the RPO to Diggs work later in the game, but that first interception was because all we do is throw an RPO to Diggs, and both of those linebackers knew it, and they got tipped up and catch it. So the Ken Dorsey red zone experience is something that needs to course correct immediately, because we have a hefty schedule. But overall, happy we got the win. The last 23 seconds, that's what I'm hanging my hat on. That's what I know this team to be. And everything else is just kind of noise through the middle of the long season.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's the biggest thing that you can look at is their red zone offense is just atrocious. And that's coming from, a fan of a team that can't play offense at any part of the field. Their red zone offense is still probably worse than ours at this point, just because of the turnovers and everything else going on. Like, it's just not getting it done. So I'm curious to see if they can fix that. But what do you think about that game, Zach?
So I'm fresh back, touchdown in the East Coast from Vegas after watching this wonderful Thanksgiving slate over there, and it was incredible to watch. And at this point, as you said about the tradition with the Lions, if you're a Lions fan, you just want an entertaining game, and that's what we got this year, and that's what we've been kind of getting as the past couple of years, and that's where kind of I'm not necessarily as harsh on Buffalo, because as I tweeted, this would have been the most incredible 4-game winning streak in recent Detroit football memory. You started off with the two against your in-division rivals, and then you go up, and who did they beat last week? It was the Giants, and then you demolished the Giants last week, and then to take it off and cap it off against the league hot Bills. I mean, it looked like, with the way they were playing and started off, I actually give the Bills more credit to answering with the home team actually at home this week and like responding to coming back from that, because this is, as much as it is the Lions, they are a good team. Like, not good, but they are a tough competing team, and they will push you to every single brink every week if they can, what they can. There are weeks they're outmatched by obviously much better teams, but if they can get under your skin and find those little things, like Tony was saying with the red zone offense and things like that, they're going to exploit them, and they're going to try to win every single game because they feel they have the opportunity to win every single game. So I actually, those 23 seconds, we've seen it from him. It's there. If Josh Allen just like cuts back, and like you said, 2 interceptions in the red zone coming into the season, maybe we're being a bit too harsh on Josh Allen and not really focusing on, well, these plays look very familiar week to week. Like, where have I seen this before? Because that seems to be the root of the cause. And how much is it stifling your offense? You have this team that can be the best, and you don't want to throw away things like, thank God that Von Miller didn't tear his ACL, but stuff like that. You got guys on this team who are coming here to like this team seems together. You're trying to recruit a guy like OBJ to come play with you as well. You need to make sure that all of these things, I guess, from a coaching aspect, are rock solid as well before we can even turn around and start looking at like, oh man, he's going back to what he was at Wyoming, because that's not happening.
Yeah, I think the narrative on Josh Allen this year has changed a lot since the beginning of the season. Obviously, he was having a rock star start to the year, right? He was unbelievable. And things have definitely cooled down. And I think that a lot of the interceptions can be attributed to the offensive coaching, but he has made some really just dreadful decisions over this time period as well. He has. And that's something he's done in the past. He's shown that, and it might just be a part of his game. And you can live with it with how well he plays 99% of the time, right? But I do want to see that type of stuff cleaned up a little bit, the truly just big errors that he will make occasionally. And that was kind of what knocked the Bills down for part of the season last year. Like, once he got hot, though, into the playoffs, he could do no wrong. And if that version of him comes back before the end of the year, then I'm not really concerned about the Bills. But the Lions, their narrative has changed as well. Because, obviously this team was historically bad defensively to start the year. The offense was definitely hitting, but defense wasn't. Now they've kind of settled into probably where they should be, where they're a quality football team that just still lacks some talent, and they just need to get some more guys on that team. But I won't be surprised if they finish around 500-ish, maybe 8-9, maybe 7-10. But they're a team that definitely is much more competitive at this point than they were to start the year. So this isn't that terrible of a look for the Bills, I don't think so.
Well, even looking at their schedule right now, they really only have 2 bad losses. They have 2 really bad losses. They have the 29-0 beat down by the Patriots and the 24-6 loss to the Cowboys after the bye week. Those are both away. Those are both on the road. They have a 4-point loss to the Dolphins, a 4-point loss to the Vikings, a 3-point loss to the Eagles, a 3-point loss to the Seahawks, where they scored 45 points, and a 3-point loss to the Bills. This can be, as we have been saying throughout the Dan Campbell era, this could be a very different Bills team. They, as he said in Hard Knocks, they just have to get those little things to finally get past that precipice of where they have been to get it to where they want to be.
Honestly,
you can see it. You can see it there. So I'm hoping, God forbid, they lose a couple down the stretch and get a better draft pick. But I'm hoping that they can get this season, this off season, to really figure it out, because it looks like it's right there.
Well, you're talking draft picks. They don't even need their own draft pick to be good.
Yeah, the Rams
are likely to be without Stafford for the
rest.
That's right. Bryce Perkins show here on out. The 3-win Rams might finish with 3 wins and hand Bryce Young or CJ Stroud.
Oh my gosh, I forgot about that. Thank you, Matthew Stafford. Oh my God.
Mm-hmm. So, they're set up well. But I think that they do need to, even though Goff hasn't been terrible by any means. I think he's a solid starter. That's where they need to find a true upgrade. If they can find a quarterback that can make those difference-making plays that Goff really isn't able to make, that's how you change, a team that is losing 1-score games to winning 1-score games, is upgrading that position, I think. That's one thing.
And we saw Goff missed what was a pretty wide open touchdown to DJ Chark on that final drive that they kicked a field goal on, with poor clock management, of course. But that's the difference. If you get a quarterback who hits that touchdown, that changes everything. Because now we're not
1-score games go in your favor. Then
a field goal, it's 23 seconds to get a touchdown. It's a different game.
Absolutely. So definitely want to see what the Lions do moving forward and what the Bills look like down the stretch. But I want to move to the Giants Cowboys game. This one, it wasn't as close as the score indicates. I will say that. So 28-20, Cowboys win. I think that this was the game that the Cowboys made it definitively shown that they are the second best team, at least in the NFC East, right? The Giants, they already lost, the Giants already lost them earlier. It just, I feel like at this point we know the Giants are a solid football team that's got really good coaching and that could get them into the playoffs, but they're not the same level of talent that the other two NFC East teams that are currently slated to be at the top of the division have. I think that's just kind of where we stand with them. But what do you think, Zach?
I'm not necessarily sold on that game saying Dallas is the second best, as I am that I think that it says that the Giants are the worst in the NFC East.
Okay.
Because I think that the Giants are now going to hit their streak of where, and look, this is not a knock on the New York Giants whatsoever. You guys have had a fantastic season. Arguably, I say the opposite of what has happened to the Detroit Lions. You guys have won a ton of one-score games from good coaching decisions and all these little things that have made these things go. I think that the Washington Commanders are really in this interesting spot right now to where they are truly a much better team than people are talking about them. I'll get into that a little bit later when we do our picks, but it's going to be a race between Dallas and Washington for second place. And what concerns me about Dallas is still quarterback play, because it's getting better, but you need to be better, and Dak needs to be doing more. We need
Odell will help,
and Odell should help if they get him. Please. I have him on my fantasy team. Can he just sign with somebody? I want to be able to use him before I get kicked out and not in the playoffs. Can I want 1 week, please. But it's Dallas is such a weird team because I definitely see their flaws are right there. And even the Giants couldn't get Saquon going, and that was a huge thing against them. And that's their bread and butter this season. If Saquon can't go, they're not going to be able to do much. So just with the way that their receiver situation set up. So I think this more is the fall from grace for the Giants as opposed to establishing the Cowboys, only because I want to see how the rest of the season plays out with the Commanders.
Yeah. What do you think, Tony?
Yeah, I'm pretty in line with that. I do think this is the beginning of the end for what has been a really fun season for the Giants. I think it's not a bad thing, like you said, Zach, that if they could lose a lot of games going forward. They could fall out of the playoff picture pretty easily. And yeah, it's cool to have the playoffs things, but ultimately this was just a tone setting of the new regime kind of year, and they've accomplished that. So I think we see them fall off the map. The Cowboys, I think they should have won by more, but they got the win, and that's kind of what matters. Getting Odell would be a massive boost, and I do think that they're going to end up getting him. I know he's taking visits this week with the Giants, Bills, and Cowboys. It feels pretty done deal that he's a Cowboy, and that would help. But I think we're going to see the Cowboys, I'm willing to say, probably finish as the 1 seed, but it's Mike McCarthy, and we've seen the flaws pop up throughout the season, and I expect with Mike McCarthy, if those flaws pop up during a playoff game, single elimination, he's not really going to be the one fixing it. So I don't have a lot of belief in them in terms of thinking they're a dominant Super Bowl contender. Like I said last week, you don't need to be dominant to win a Super Bowl. You just kind of need to get lucky at the right time, and they're certainly going to be in position. But if we're talking powerhouse team, I don't really see it because their flaws are so just there. And coaching isn't going to elevate them over them.
Yeah. I think from good, Zach.
Oh, and because you were saying the first seeded Cowboys, I mean, depending on how these things bounce out, it's nuts to think that the team that everybody thought was in the basement still has a shot at being the first seed in the AFC. Or not the AFC, the NFC East, because if things bounce out right, the Commanders still have their chance to mess things up, because they do. It's not that far out. It's honestly not. They're 6-4. or 6-5.
They're
That's
6-5
three. That's
right
3
now.
games
Yeah,
back.
tell me what the record is tomorrow. At least after I
Well,
make my prediction.
We'll see.
Well,
We'll
so,
see.
yeah. But so my whole thing with it right now with the Giants is as much as I think that they've proven that they've at least got the right people coaching and running this team. Like that's the biggest thing that they're going to come out of the season with, right? Is regardless of how it goes the rest of the year, you can feel confident that with money going in next year, with draft capital, with everything that they're going to have going on, they're going to be able to build a team that's more talented to go along with the coaching staff, right? So that's good. But their schedule the rest of the way, the only team they play that's currently under 500 is the Colts. They play the Commanders twice, they play the Eagles twice, and they play the Vikings. I don't know if you can pick them to win any more than 2 of those last 6 games that they're going to play. That would put them at 9-8. That's probably not going to be enough to make the playoffs in the NFC, especially if the rest of the NFC East is feeding off of them and getting wins through them. So it's probably not going to be a playoff season if you're the Giants. You still could sneak in if you can sweep the Commanders somehow, right? Let's say they beat the Commanders twice, they lose the Eagles both times, and they split Colts Vikings, right? You probably could get in at that point if the Commanders with those 2 losses you give them fall out of the race, right? But it's a lot to ask, and the schedule isn't favorable. So I think that this was a game that if they won, I'd feel very comfortable about them being in the playoffs. Losing this game and dropping both to the Cowboys this year really, really hurts their chances of doing that. So, but moving on to the Vikings-Patriots game, this one I don't want to spend too much time on because it pretty much the narrative of this game is primetime Kirk Cousins didn't show up. The non-primetime version of Kirk Cousins showed up, and that was without Dalvin Cook doing anything. It was, relying on Justin Jefferson as always. Thielen finally got involved. Hawkinson chipped in. It was a really good game for Cousins, and I think that's kind of the biggest narrative. The Patriots put up a good fight. Mac Jones had his best game of the year by far, but this is a Viking secondary that isn't that great at this point, so I'm not that surprised they're missing some guys. So what do you guys think about this, real quickly? We'll go back to Tony here.
Yeah, I think you kind of spelled it out there. We saw the Vikings win, and it was because of Kirk Cousins this time, and that in a nighttime game is cool. They're still what they were every week of the year so far. I think like giving up 26 points, was it, to the Patriots is an indictment on that defense. Like you should not feel good about that. You should feel sad. I know you were on deep reserve corners and everything, but it's Devontae Parker and Jacoby Myers and Kendrick Bourne and whoever the hell else they're throwing the ball to. The Hunter Henry catch, debate it all you want. I don't really care. That stuff happens in football games. I think we learned nothing, or we didn't learn nothing from this game, but everything we thought was true before the game is still true. The Vikings are a flawed but winning team, and that's what matters. And the Patriots, they just don't have the firepower to keep up with really good offenses.
Yeah, and you can't even say it wasn't a 1-score game because it was.
Mm-hmm.
7 points. So like, granted, it was the full extent of a 1-score almost, but like, still, it's the Patriots. It should be more. And that's just the story of the Minnesota season all year. Like 34 yards to a 34-yard strike to Nelson Aguilar, 37-yard strike to Hunter Henry. Like, these are things that no other team is letting up the entire season, and they're not the only team that's on reserve corners. That's just me. Like,
yeah,
you gotta find somebody. I mean, shoot, Tony, who did you guys have for 1 week starting?
I couldn't even tell you the names. DeMarcus Ingram.
Exactly. So like, and even then, like, I don't. Congratulations, Kirk Cousins. You had a good game. I will give that to him. Like, I will say yes. Congrats, Kirk Cousins. You had a great night. You kind of shook that whatever, but we're still here.
Yeah. So again, I don't think we learned too much about either of these teams. It's pretty much status quo, just without, throw in the good game from Kirk Cousins and what should be considered a primetime matchup. That's really the only thing.
At least it was exciting.
Yeah. The Thanksgiving games in general were really fun.
Fantastic slate.
So, yeah, really fun.
Excellent.
So I'm glad that was what ended up happening. So, but we want to move in before we talk about the games and talk a little bit about the quarterback situations across the league. A lot has changed in the past week. Some very much make sense, and others still probably make sense, but it is a little bit upsetting to watch. Let's start with Zach Wilson, because that's the big one, right? Number 2 overall pick. It was rough. He may have been 5-2, but it was maybe the most fraudulent 5-2 record a quarterback has ever gotten his team to, considering his level of play in those 5 wins, especially. But yeah, what's going on, Zach?
Didn't he not play a lot of those? Wasn't he hurt at the beginning of the season?
He was 5-2 in
a couple games, but he is 5-2 as a starter.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I was about to say, because I know Joe Flacco started the season.
Yeah, he's 5-2 in games that he started specifically. So
okay.
Despite that, you look at his production and you look at how he played, especially in the 2 losses against the Patriots. It's much of the same we saw from him, especially early last year. He did, finish last season pretty strong as far as, avoiding turnovers and everything, but he hasn't been able to produce. And I think that going to Mike White, who has the most explosive game by any Jets quarterback, and I don't know how long, from last year still, it's the Bengals. It makes sense if this team really wants to try to make the playoffs this year. And then, they're in a position where they can do that still. And as much as you don't want to give up on the 2nd overall pick, you kind of have to if you want to save your season and keep things going. And it probably does mean the end for Zach Wilson, I have to assume, at least for him as a Jet. What do you guys think? Let's start with Tony here.
Yeah, so I'm a little bit mixed on this opinion. It's kind of a weird one. I don't think the benching was due to football. I think so. It's not like we know, like Mike White and Joe Flacco. Neither of those guys are the answer either. And It makes sense from a football perspective to continue to ride your 2nd overall pick and go through the lumps and hope he can figure it out. I think this is purely just because the man couldn't take accountability, and the locker room turned on him. And if you're Robert Saleh and you have this excellent roster, potentially the best defense in the NFL, you actually do have a very good offensive line, receiving weapons, running backs, like very, very good roster. You don't want to lose all of those guys because you want your 2nd overall quarterback to figure it out when he's not owning up to his shit. Like we saw Josh Allen pretty much suck through 2 years, right? And the reason nobody gave up on him was because he had the full buy-in from the locker room, because after every loss, no matter whose fault it was, he'd get up there and say, yeah, that one's on me. I need to be better. That's all it takes when you're a quarterback going through your lumps. Just do the bare minimum and you will continue to get the leash to figure it out. So I think this benching is because of that. And I don't think it means the end for him just yet. I think they can go back to him if he can, because it sounds like he's after the fact been like, oh shit, I did not realize how bad of a look that was. Like I need to work on being more accountable, being a better teammate. Like if he can figure that stuff out, I think they probably even give him another year. Because he's not good, but the special plays we saw in college, we haven't seen him figure out how to do those in the NFL. And if he can, then he can still be something. I just think that right now, with the team where it is, they needed to do a little bit of an accountability thing and bench him there. And so that's kind of the main point. I don't think Mike White's stealing the starting job. I don't think Joe Flacco is stealing the starting job. I don't think they're in the quarterback market heavily next year. Maybe if a Derek Carr gets cut and they really want to move on. But I think that we're probably going to see another year of Zach Wilson if he can get his mind right after this benching and take it in the right way.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing, because it sounds like during this week of the follow-up that he has been responding to this whole incident very well in the direction the team wants you. And, of all the head coaches in the league, I'm going to take Saleh's word actually a bit stronger than other people, because he actually seems like a very truthful and like honest person up on the podium. And just the way that he holds and carries himself. And if he's telling us that no, and we're going to give Zach every opportunity to come back and be the starter of this football team, I fully feel like the Jets are going to do that, because you have the second overall pick invested. As explosive as Mike White is, if they wanted to win games, it's Joe Flacco. Joe Flacco is the one that's won them games. And I know QB wins are not a stat, say whatever, but at the end of the day, when have you won games? And Mike White might be more explosive, but is he putting the ball in danger more? Joe Flacco is a bit more of a veteran. He knows the spots to where it's like, I should throw that away, get rid of this, take this sack, blah, 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 blah. I don't know. The Jets are an interesting an interesting thing. The Breece Hall injury is definitely one of the worst things to derail their season because he was doing so well and it was doing so much. Their defense has been so great this year, but then they've been getting hampered by injuries now as well. So it's just another thing like the Giants. It's been amazing to see the start of the season that they had, but I think everybody kind of knew eventually some of this was going to tail off.
So for me, as much as the actual reason for him being benched is likely a lot to do with his attitude whenever he did put up a stinker against the Patriots, right? I think that's what kind of put the nail in the coffin, because then you can't really put him out there and say that, oh, he has the full support of the locker room and all this other stuff. I still think that it was the right decision from a football perspective.
Oh yeah.
And not only that, and I know you guys feel the same way, I don't think that he will be a Jet after. Well, he may be on the team, but he will not start another game, I don't think, for this team. I don't think he will. If he starts another game this year, it would be either because of injury or because he just, they're so bad at quarterback that even he would be better. Like if White just can't get anything going and Flacco can't get anything going. But I don't think that he gets back on the field unless there's like an injury or, like I said, poor play. And I think by next year, someone else will be the starting quarterback of this team. I don't know who it will be. My money's on Garoppolo. If he doesn't come back to San Francisco, I think that there's obviously familiarity there from whenever Salah was with the Niners, and I think that he would do at least what they ask him to do, kind of like what the Niners have gotten from him. That might be enough to continue to be in playoff contention while they figure out who it is going to be long term. That's what I think is most likely outcome there. But I would be very surprised if Wilson gets another shot legitimately at starting with this team.
I think they view him as like in like the Mac Jones situation, to where like they have the investment, they're not going to bench him. Like it looks worse on them to bench him in this scenario and not have him play with who they would be playing, because like I think that's what Bill Belichick realizes. Like I drafted Mac Jones. A year ago, I can't be starting Bailey Zapp. That looks so bad on me and my image. If we get through this season, after the season, you get rid of him. But like the 1 year invest, because the only coach that we've seen, or team we've really seen do it, is the Cardinals, and it's not worked out well for them. So like this high investment in quarterback and then get rid of. I mean, it's kind of it's not a good look. It's a very awful look, really, because you're really just shooting yourself in the foot.
That's fair. But I think teams are less concerned about it at this point, because especially a team like the Patriots, they don't care about stuff like that. I don't think Bill Belichick cares one bit. I think if he thought Zappy was better, he'd be playing. It doesn't matter at all. I don't think the investment means anything to him. But with Salah, I think that he's also a coach that he cares, more about putting the best player on the field than he does about what people think about the draft pick that he made or that the team made. I think that he's in that same vein, and so I'm not going to be surprised if we never see Wilson again for them, but we'll see what happens with him. Davis Mills as well. This one makes, more sense because he's a third-round pick. You don't have a lot invested in him. You hope that he could show a lot of the stuff he showed last year for this team. Houston's just bad. He was bad. It's all bad. They need a complete reset on offense, especially quarterback. This is not anything that I think we're surprised by. Kyle Allen getting the start, good old Kyle Allen. Good for him, man. He's gonna get a chance to play a little bit.
The Panthers commercial, baby.
Exactly. Earn some money from his contract. He'll actually get to do something. But again, I don't think we have to talk too much about Davis Mills. But generally, it sucks for him that he couldn't build off of last year, and Houston wasn't probably going to be a team that he could do that with the way they're structured. So
I could see him going to another team as a backup and then eventually breaking through a la Geno Smith and having a later resurgence, kind of like what we've been seeing with some people. But I think he needs a little bit more time to sit behind somebody and maybe learn a few more things.
Yeah, for sure. What do you think, Tony?
Yeah, I completely agree. Like I actually like Davis Mills. I think to play the level he has in that situation while being a third round pick and everything, like it's impressive. I think he has a place in this league. I think he's at worst a career backup, and good for him. I think the Texans, I don't really know what their motivation is. I'm just concerned if they are making this move because I think it'll help them win. Why are they doing such a thing? You have the one win. You have Bryce Young in your building unless you do something stupid and win a few games. So don't win any games. Don't.
You have the first overall pick in your lap.
Yeah.
Yes.
Plus so many other picks.
Just don't mess it up.
If I'm being honest, what I think it is they know that even though Mills has been really bad this year, they've
He
seen
could
what
possibly
he can
turn it
do.
on, and they don't want to win a few
And they're
games.
like,
So let's put Kyle Allen in.
They've established that they don't think Mills is the guy, so it doesn't matter if they bench him and he gets upset.
Excuse me, NFL commissioner, can we get a tampering
tanking?
investigation in here?
This is a full-on tank mode situation, guys. I think it is exactly the opposite of what you're worried about, Tony. I think that they know that Mills would give them a better chance of winning, so they throw Kyle Allen out there and say, "Hey, man, go do whatever you want to do. Have a good
stink
time.
it up."
As long as they're on the same page, like
I assume so. I don't think that this has anything to do with winning. I really don't. Maybe the coaches think that's the case, but the front office is like, yeah, Kyle Allen. Yeah, we'll you throw him out there. That's fine. So yeah, it is what it is with Davis. I hope that he figures it out. And then we get the return of Samuel Darnold with the Panthers.
Oh, I didn't even know about this one. What?
He is starting today. Yes, over Baker Mayfield.
Gosh,
the Panthers. Listen, I know Steve Wilkes it seems like he has a good shot of retaining the job. Okay. And it's not that Baker's obviously been any good, but no one has been for them this year. Why are we doing this with Sam Darnold?
Give him a shot. I'll give him a shot.
Why are we doing this?
Baker?
I don't give him a game over Baker. I give him one game. That's fine.
Yeah, one.
And
game,
this is the perfect, because exactly, it doesn't matter. What are the Panthers going to do?
But like we kind of know about all these quarterbacks, but like I definitely know about Sam Darnold.
One thing I did want to touch on though, because Justin Fields' injury, this is sounding slightly concerning.
Well, he's not playing yet. Trevor Siemian.
Well, he's not playing, but I mean, he's having injury handing off the ball. And what does that mean for the how long is he going to be out? How long are we going to see Trevor Siemian?
Bears tank season coming full force now. We're doing
so,
it.
But I mean, but
him only helps.
Yeah, I mean, sitting him only helps and get some help. But that's an interesting little wrinkle here. Same with the Rams with Bryce Perkins coming in to replace seemingly what will be the I don't want to say the end of Matthew Stafford's career, but it's looking pretty likely.
He's coming back next year.
He's got to get healthy. If he gets healthy and they can find someone to play right guard that I've heard of before, they'll probably be all right. But
that's not me.
Yeah, exactly. So, but yeah, the Rams, we're just gonna pretend that they don't exist until next year because we don't.
They're doing the same thing.
Yeah, they're taking that seriously too. So we'll worry about them later. But I
think they're more not wanting to take on the wrath of Kelly Stafford.
Fair enough. Yeah, yeah. Well, we're gonna get into the predictions now. We're gonna go through most of these pretty quickly, and not a lot of great matchups this week, unfortunately. At least from like a playoff seeding or standings perspective, a lot of kind of iffy games. But want to start with Denver at Carolina. God, no one should watch this
game.
Yeah, don't watch it. Like, unless you're like Sam Darnold's best friend, okay? Maybe you
unfortunately still have Russell Wilson on your fantasy team.
Yes.
Because there's nothing left for you because you drafted
Kyle Allen instead.
I drafted Kyler Murray and Matthew Stafford in my dual quarterback league to start the year.
I would have done that, so I can't say anything. But with this game, I want to start with Zach here. I feel like you're gonna like talking about this one, but
well, I have Denver winning this game because I have Denver scoring 18 points, and pretty much that's their litmus test. Their defense is pretty good, and the passing defense will give them some opportunities to let Russell Wilson do whatever it is that Russell Wilson and the Denver offense does every week. They're being outscored this season by Jamal Williams, running back for the Detroit Lions. As a whole, the running back Jamal Williams is outscoring the entire Denver offense this season. Anyways, 18-13. The Carolina gets a little bit from the rushing attack because they kind of do every week, but you're nothing. I mean,
no, yeah, just no.
Don't watch this game.
What do you think, Tony?
I will second the don't watch this game unless you're like a sicko who loves defense. Like if you liked that
or you happen to be a fan of one of these teams. That's I will give you that.
I might still not in that situation.
Hey, I watched every single game of the Dolphins 1-15 season. I can't say anything.
Fair enough.
And that was before HD.
Well, those are whenever a team is that bad, it's fun to watch because you're like, how are they this week?
Yeah, like with bags on their head.
They're just so mid, both of these teams. that it's not even really fun for that perspective. So, but yeah, anyway,
so I think so Carolina, sneaky elite defense these past couple of weeks. They really held the Ravens down last week. They were on upset alert for the entire game. Denver's defense, we know the story with them. They're incredible. Their pass rush is kind of taking a hit with Bradley Chubb gone, but they're still incredible. I have Denver winning 17-7 because I think their offensive players can score a couple touchdowns, and I think Darnold's an upgrade over Baker. But against this defense, I don't think anybody on their roster has any chance of scoring points.
So I had a secondary score for this game. So I want to say my actual score is Denver 20-17 because I think that they're going to score a defensive touchdown. And I think the Panthers will get like a garbage time touchdown later in the game. So that's kind of how you get to 20-17. I wanted to make it 8-7 Denver, where they get get a 2-point conversion on their touchdown drive to take the lead.
That score got me. I feel like it has to.
It could be, but the point is, I'm expecting either the defense to be so good that nobody scores any points, or that the defense scores points for one of these teams. But I'm going to say Denver 20-17, probably on a pick six that puts them ahead by like 10 points, and then Panthers get the garbage time. Moving on to Atlanta at Washington, huge game for Washington, especially Atlanta too, if they want to stick around in the NFC South race. But I kind of feel like I know where Zach's going on this, so let's go with
I think Tony and I are on opposite sides.
Let's go with Tony on this one.
So I think Washington has been doing excellent things. They're on a little hot streak. The vibes are great. Taylor Heineke is a vibes guy, and I love that about him. He's not a football, he's not like a good football guy. He's not doing anything to elevate your offense. He's just chucking it out there and hoping
he's
for the best.
I don't give a crap about anything.
The Falcons, they're sneaky, competent every now and then too. I don't know. I have more confidence in the domination of their running game than I do in anything that the Commanders do. And so I have Atlanta winning 23-17.
All right. What do you think,
I
Zach?
have more confidence in the top 5 Washington Commanders rushing defense than I do in a
strength on strength.
Than I do against a team that does not have a quarterback that can make the plays through the air to give them a win. In the end, I think that Taylor Heineke is much better through the air than Marcus Mariota is, and that's going to be one of the more deciding factors in this game. And the fact that the Falcons defense is not that good. They're not, and between Brian Robinson and Antonio Gibson doing their thing, and I'm actually really happy that situation has been figured out, because they beginning the season was a little weird with the way that it was happening, but it looks like they've moved because JD McKissick has taken the backseat role like he should have at this point. And that's all. It's all fair, as much as I'm upset because I love him. But I have 24-17 Washington. I think this is going to be an interesting season to watch with Ron Rivera to see if he really can, if he has anything left in the tank as a coach to really pull a franchise together and do this. They're going to shed all this ridiculous outside drama with Snyder. I'm excited for this game. This is going to be a fun game.
I think for me, I do have Washington 24-21. I think that they're just a better team right now at this moment. I think that if you're the Falcons, you can't, you said it, Zach, they cannot get a passing game going. They don't even try to get a passing game going most weeks. I'm kind of glad, as much as it sucks for Kyle Pitts to be hurt, he's just as effective in that situation as he's been in the games, because they don't actually play him or do anything with him. I think that Washington just right now, especially their passing game, they're going to make enough plays in their passing game. I think McLaurin probably scores. I think Gibson scores in this game too. And I think it's just going to be enough to put them over the edge in that game. So Houston at Miami. I think in this game, I'm just going to throw this out right now. I think that Jeff Wilson runs for 180 yards or something like that, just because they can just run down their throats and get out of there with a win.
I hope
but
so.
What do you think, Zach, on this one?
Houston will cover. That is the one thing I will say, because 14 points is a lot in the NFL. I mean, I would say that it doesn't happen a lot. And especially with Miami, we've seen a couple of their games where I feel like they should have won by more, where they haven't, just because the defense has some things to figure out. And it'll be interesting to see what happens off the bye. However, I don't think that this team is in any danger of a trap game situation, only because I think that there's too much for them to prove this year. I don't think they're going to walk into any single game this year, even with all the hype that they have around them. After what happened last year with the way that they've missed the playoffs the past few seasons, you have a lot of these players who have been here for a while. They're here to prove that they are one of the better teams in the AFC East after being in the basement for so long, and one of the better teams in the AFC after this very long playoff drought. So I have them winning 31-20, a two possession win, but it's just not the 14 points because that's just so much. That's just so much in an NFL game.
That's fair. What do you think, Tony?
Yeah, I'm the opposite in terms of the spread. I have them winning 38-20, so very similar score, but they get that extra touchdown. And maybe it's a Kyle Allen pick six when he's pushing down at the end of the game. I think Mike McDaniel, I think he takes pride in beating the piss out of teams offensively.
Yes.
And especially, and I don't know how much they pay attention to this, but if you ask any Twitter fan of either of these teams, they definitely pay attention to it. Seeing the Bills offense struggle against these bad defenses and then Miami like playing the same teams and demolishing them, there might be some sense of pride in that. And so I think whenever they see a bad defense, they're like, okay, we need to embarrass everybody. So 38 points, I think, is probably an easy target for them against this Texans defense that is very bad. And then the only reason I'm giving the Texans 20, like despite Miami's defensive woes, I don't think they have a good enough offense to do it. I just think Kyle Allen brings that chaos element where like Davis Mills kind of plays the quarterback traditionally where he's like, managing risk, going through his progressions. Kyle Allen just, he just really likes to push the ball, whether or not it's a good idea. And that might result in a splash touchdown, hopefully to Brandon Cooks for the sake of my fantasy team.
Nico Collins, actually, Tony. No, I get it. Yeah. For me, I think that it's very possible that they are able to beat this spread, but I'm going to have 31-17, so kind of a no bet in that situation. I think that Miami will very comfortably win this game, and there might be a garbage time touchdown to make it a little bit closer. But I just think that, one, they're just way better than Houston, and they're not a team, like you said, Zach, that is buying into the, like, we're that great. Like, they want to punish everyone they play, and they want to do it very fast, and they want to do it as much as they possibly can. So I'm going to take them 31-17. Cincinnati at Tennessee. This is our game of the week. I do want to talk about it now, though, because the fact that Jamar Chase isn't playing in this game,
huge.
It changed my whole thought on it. And so I want to definitely focus in on this game for a second. So what do you think of this game, Zach?
It didn't change what it slightly changes what I think about it because I now feel like that Tennessee handedly like has the ability to win this game. I'm not betting against Mike Vrabel. I'm not especially at home. With what they've done this season, they arguably have one of the most impressive seasons this year with what they've had because of just how hampered they've been, the way they've won these games. It's been ridiculous. Say what you want about it being a false 7-3, but when you are clawing through the injuries and some of the holes that they have on this team, like it's incredible. And I don't trust Cincinnati's offense without Jamar Chase. Joe Mixon is not going to have an easy time rushing the ball. Tennessee's very good against. Oh, well, okay. Yeah, no, it's a wrap. They've got
Samaje Perine Day, folks.
Yeah, it's a wrap. It's a wrap.
Fantasy lineups accordingly. No, yeah, I think
that makes my 27-20 Tennessee score look a bit weird, but I think it could still happen.
What do you think, Tony?
I've got 24-20 Tennessee winning, so it's not that weird. I think despite the injuries to the Bengals, Joe Burrow has kind of figured out who he is beyond Jamar Chase in recent weeks, and that is a very, very good quarterback who can elevate a team playing some guy named Irwin.
Don't even talk to me about Trent Irwin right now.
It's been really impressive, and I think they're still going to be able to put points on the board, but that Tennessee team, they just know how to win ugly, and they know how to make games ugly and win them. There's the revenge element of, they were the 1 seed last year and wanting to take down the Bengals. I think Tennessee wins, but it's close and very worthy of game of the week. I have some breaking news about the next game we want to discuss. So Shayne, after you give your spiel, I'd like to make an announcement.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. We love that. So I have Tennessee 28-24. I think that it's going to be actually middle, high scoring-ish type of game. I think that it's going to be a huge Derrick Henry game, touchdown-wise at least, especially. But I just think that Tennessee, again, they win games. Oh boy, I think he saw it too. I haven't seen whatever it is yet. Tennessee, they win games like this. This is how they win. So
How does he keep getting away with it?
I'm just
How
gonna.
does he keep getting away with it?
One is let's go to what's going on.
Nathan
So,
Peterman is starting.
Trevor Siemian, who was planning on starting for injured Justin Fields, injured his oblique in warmups today. Nathan Peterman, interception god, is starting today against the New York Jets defense, one of the best defenses in the NFL. I just updated my score prediction and gave an additional 2 touchdowns to the Jets because I expect pick sixes.
Oh, David Montgomery's the emergency backup. I'm so pissed right now. I'm so pissed right now.
All right, so Chicago at New York. Yeah.
Don't watch this game.
So
no, I want to watch it. It's great TV. I promise you. I've seen Nathan Peterman 5 interceptions, 1.5. Watch this game.
I watched. So Tony, what's your score prediction?
So I originally had it very, lopsided game. I had the Jets winning 28-10 under the assumption that Trevor Siemian was starting, because I think this Bears offense without Justin Fields, they're not going to be able to run the ball, especially when you're going up against Quinnen Williams and that D line. I think the Jets defense is elite. Their offense with a distributor is, like I was saying earlier, elite playmaking weapon. So they just distribute and let guys run. Big Elijah Moore game, whatever. So I added 2 touchdowns, and now I'm saying 42-10 because Nathan Peterman's going to score some touchdowns today. It's just not going to be for his team.
Go ahead, Zach.
I had my original score was 21-13. I felt like it was going to be a little bit closer because I'm not necessarily sold on Mike White. I think he is going to make equally amount of mistakes because he is still a backup. There was a reason he was a backup. I don't know, man. It's 2 backup quarterbacks, and again, I don't understand. There had to have been somebody better out there than Nathan Peterman. I just don't understand that one. That's the one you can't eat. So I don't even know if I want to update my score. All I'm going to say is that the Jets cover. Whatever the line is, they cover. If they have -14, they cover.
Yeah. I had 21-17. I thought this was actually a really close, really bad game. And now I'm gonna say 28-10. I'm gonna do 14-point swing. Mostly due to Nathan Peterman. But Bears fans, maybe just do something else today.
I'm sorry,
maybe
guys.
Go find something to do. Go see a movie.
Go take a walk.
Something. I don't know. Maybe Wakanda Forever
sure
still
what the
in theaters
weather's like
right now.
in Chicago
Maybe go
right
see that.
now.
Yeah. Well,
go touch some grass.
Yeah, something like that. Let's just pretend that game isn't happening. Tampa Bay at Cleveland. I've struggled with this one a little bit in terms of like the spread I wanted to go with in score prediction, but I know who I want to take. Obviously, let's go to Zach for this one.
I actually have upset here. I'm going to pick Cleveland to win 17-13, only because I think this is going to be Jacoby Brissett's. Jacoby Brissett knows this is his last game, and he's gonna. This is going to be his chance to either show Cleveland he wants to stay. He can stay there and get a good backup contract, or another team to go to. So, I just with Leonard Fournette out, it's rough times in Tampa.
All right, what do you think, Tony?
Opposite prediction, same reasons. With Leonard Fournette out, I think the
they're better
is going to be massively upgraded. I think that they've been addicted to running the football with him just plodding through and not doing much. We've seen Rachaad White look pretty explosive. He's a value add in the passing game. I think Tom Brady's going to toss a bunch of touchdowns. I've got Tampa Bay winning 27-17. And I do think Brissett has another good game, but just knowing how they like to play football, Vita Vea playing today, it's going to be tough to score points. But on the Jacoby Brissett point, I think he's deserving of a compete with a rookie kind of situation next year wherever he goes, because he's been really good. A couple drops happened in that Bills game. Otherwise, we'd be talking about Jacoby Brissett upsetting the Bills.
Yeah, for sure. I have 27-21 Tampa. I think that they will just be able to just do enough offensively. I think Rashad White is an upgrade over Fournette at this point from an overall standpoint. Fournette just hasn't gotten it going, and again, they're addicted to just handing the ball off to him and having him get 3 yards. Don't really understand that, but that's beside the point. I think Tampa wakes up a little bit offensively, and Cleveland does enough to make it look okay. Moving to Baltimore at Jacksonville, this is an interesting game with the way Baltimore's been playing offensively, and they have a lot of guys, either banged up or missing time. It's rough for them. But what do you think for this one, Tony?
Yeah, so it's not a traditional nail in the coffin game, but it is a raise the alarm bells kind of game for the Ravens offense. Their defense has reached another level since trading for Roquan Smith. There's no denying that. It's a Super Bowl caliber defense, and that's why they're going to remain really good. But this offense has struggled hard in just a lot of this season, honestly, outside of those first 4 or so weeks. And if you can't do it against a Jacksonville defense that is very, very, very beatable, then you got some serious problems to figure out. I know that like they have Gus Edwards back, Demarcus Robinson's good to go. Mark Andrews is good to go. Like they should be able to do it. I have them winning 21-13 and kind of stifling some of those worries. But man, if they can't reach 20 points, you got some concerns.
Yeah. What do you think, Zach?
I have Baltimore winning 24-21, only because I look at Jacksonville this season the same way I do as Detroit, to where like you can see the vision there. It's just a few dumb plays here and there. They've finally been joined by another team in the AFC South with a positive point differential, and they're now not the only team with a positive point differential. But I think that right there is a massive boon in their favor. They're playing some good football. It's just the stupid mistakes have been killing them. If they can clean that up, another young roster. The defense plays well, but Lamar Jackson. I just have too much faith in Lamar Jackson that they lose this game, and they've been actually riding a nice little win streak here. So. Despite the offensive struggles.
Yeah, I think that actually we have the same score, 24-21, Zach.
Yep.
Baltimore. I think that, again, they're going to do enough. I still think this offense needs to diversify itself. I think that moving forward, they need to bring in more receiver depth, not just good receivers, but receivers who can legitimately play, because without Bateman in there, they're just not a good passing offense to the outside. And I think that Lamar should be getting more help from that department from the team. I think that's something that's a big point of focus going forward. So let's definitely pick things up a little bit, get everybody out here before the game start. Chargers at Arizona. This feels like a Charger special in my opinion, but I'm still kind of iffy on it. Tony, what do you think?
Back to back, like major alarm bells if you get this one wrong kind of game. I don't know how they're only 3-point favorites. The Chargers showed last week how good they can be and how good of a team they can be. I know they're banged up, but the Cardinals playing on a short week, traveling back from Mexico City, they look awful right now. They're spiraling. You should be able to dominate them. I have the Chargers winning 31-24, and that's kind of like a backdoor 24. I don't expect it to be very close.
Okay, what do you think, Zach?
I think that this is going to be Cliff Kingsbury's
see you the next
Van. No.
Oh.
Van Gogh. I think this is going to be his masterpiece. I think he gets Marquise Brown back today. They have activated him to play, and you have your top 2 passing options available. If you can't do it now, can't do it ever. You've got a banged up team in the Chargers. I think they look to take advantage of that. Mike Williams is out again. There's just a lot of interest, and it's not an indictment on the Chargers. It's just another season where it's just like, oh man, it sucks. What could have been with all these injuries? They had a great roster, and it's gone up in flames. I just think that Cliff Kingsbury is trying to save his job, and him and with Kyler back as well, and he has something to prove to go to next season. They are going to try to pull out all the stops, being at home, 30-24.
Okay, I have Chargers winning 31-28. I think that it's a very scary 31-28 where they probably should lose, but they somehow don't. This is just how the Chargers do it. We know this. They'll find a way to screw it up and give the Cardinals a chance to win, and the Cardinals will oblige by not winning because they're not good. I don't think Kingsbury has a Van Gogh performance in him. I don't think that Murray is going to be spectacular in his first game back. I think he will be much better, obviously. They'll be better offensively. I have him scoring 28 points, but they'll find a way to lose. Las Vegas at Seattle. I like this game a lot for one of these teams, honestly. But what do you think, Tony?
I think it's going to be a really exciting game. I think
I hope so. Yeah.
the Raiders hopefully have figured out that you just got to target Adams and hope for the best.
Yeah.
Defensively, they're still just so susceptible to a lot of things. So I have Seattle winning 28-24. I think it's going to be a big Ken Walker day, and then the pass catching weapons and Geno Smith. Like it's going to be an offensive, like not masterpiece, but it's going to be pretty. And then just the narrow win, because I do think the Raiders are just going to pepper Devontae Adams with targets, realizing that they traded 2 firsts for him.
Yeah. What do you think, Zach?
I don't think that the Vegas gets that last touchdown, but I still have Seattle getting to 28. Like you said, big Ken Walker day. From what I've seen of Seattle this year, I like it a lot. They were on a bye last week, right?
Yeah.
Yep. So the Germany game was weird. I definitely feel like they almost had the chance at the end, but I was a bit disappointed. I trust Seattle so much more, and with Pete Carroll having his resurgence, Las Vegas, man, it's gonna suck. But you guys got to buckle up for the rest of the season.
I have 28-24 as well, Seattle winning, Tony, so we're in agreement there. I think that the Raiders offense is good enough to score 24 points on a team like this, especially Josh Jacobs looks like he's healthy enough to play today, unless that's changed. So that'll help them out a little bit, but Seattle's just better. I'm going to take them to win. Yeah. New Orleans at San Francisco. I feel like this one could end up getting very, very ugly, or it's just going to end up being like mildly bad for one of these teams in particular. What do you think, Zach?
I have San Francisco winning 28-15. Covered the spread. New Orleans has their secondary, and I think they'll shut down some of the things however, they don't get a lot of pressure in the backfield. So even with Dennis Smith taking over as head coach, which I think it's going to be interesting to see what happens with them in the offseason. I don't know if you can necessarily consider yourselves having a great season under him and continuing for the future, but we'll see. But yeah, San Francisco gets a nice easy win. They've just got so much more on the offense to deal with. It's another team that was really, as much as it was questionable, the injuries have been awful to watch for New Orleans.
Yeah. What do you think, Tony?
Yeah, so similar score. I've got San Francisco winning 27-13. I think it's a box score beatdown that doesn't really show up on the scoreboard, just because pacing of the game is gonna be kind of quick. You're not gonna be able to put up a ton of points by nature. But it's no contest. It's just the score it's not like a 40-point blowout, but it's a blowout.
Yeah, I have 27-17. I think that they don't cover. I think that San Francisco does hit that -9. I think that it just feels like they're playing on a different level than they were earlier in the year, now that everybody's mostly healthy and Garoppolo's kind of got it going right now. I don't think it's going to last as far as Garoppolo playing as well as he has. I think at some point you are going to see that drop off, but not enough where they're not going to be favored by a lot of these games. Rams at Kansas City.
Speaking of blowouts.
Yeah, this was the game where I had a little bit of liberty with the score. What do you think for this one, Zach?
35-16, Kansas City. Rams have nothing. I don't think a move to Bryce Perkins changes anything. Cooper Kupp is still out. There's no rushing attack. Kansas City has everything going right now. I think this is just going to be too easy for their offense and their defense. The last time I said this, though, I was positive they were going to beat down the Colts, and they lost. But this is a very different situation.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I'd say so. What do you think, Tony?
I've got the same score differential, just a different way. I've got Kansas City winning 31-10. Pretty much same analysis, right? Like it's just a significantly better team against a bad and beat up team. I bet a couple days ago, I don't know if it's still plus money, but Patrick Mahomes over 2.5 touchdowns was like plus 130 on DraftKings Sportsbook. So thank you, DraftKings, for the free money.
Yeah, I have Kansas City 34-14. I just feel again like this is one of those games that the Rams just kind of roll over and die because they already have, whether they believe they have or not. So it's just kind of what it comes down to. Green Bay at Philly. Let's go to, I want to start with Tony on this one.
This is an interesting game. I think this game really matters for the NFC as a whole, because like if the Packers get this upset, they're still in the picture. Like they're not ruled out yet. And I think that
their like thumb is in the picture, like they have it on the lens of the picture. Yeah.
Yeah.
Somehow they unhook their nail of the coffin of Detroit.
Yeah. Like it's I have Philadelphia winning 27-23, a pretty close game. I think it's going to be like Christian Watson might get a long touchdown. AJ Brown might get a long touchdown. I think it's going to be a hard fought game, but ultimately the talent of the Eagles roster wins out. But yeah, I think it's going to be like a really competitive, really fun game that matters in the NFC.
What do you think, Zach?
I have Philadelphia winning 28-23. So just one more point over you, Tony. But I think this is a very, very big game, like you said, and only because I want to see what the Green Bay Packers rushing attack does against the Eagle, or does against the Eagles. Because last week, while Jonathan Taylor only got 84 yards, Indianapolis defense showed up big time, and I'm not necessarily expecting that from the Packers as much in comparison, because I think it was a little bit different. You got Nick Sirianni coming to town, old Frank Reich guy, brand new Jeff Saturday move. And I still, even with all that, I don't know why he got on that bench. Really weird after winning and beating the Colts by 1 point. I don't think that's something to get that hyped up about. But anyways, if Aaron Jones is able to gash them, the rest of the Philadelphia Eagles schedule is a gauntlet of running backs that are going to abuse them. Derrick Henry next week, Saquon twice, the Bears offense, hopefully with Justin Fields back, the Cowboys. I mean, I don't, if you want to count Alvin Kamara, I don't know what it is anymore with the Saints, but I mean, he is still a dangerous running back. It's a gauntlet, and a lot of teams that can easily take advantage of them. All of a sudden, your 9-1 record goes up in flames.
Yeah. So this is my upset pick of the week. I have Green Bay 24-20. That's my pick. I think that Aaron Jones scores 3 touchdowns, whether running, receiving, whatever. I think it's a huge game for him. And I think that ultimately Philly, they fall susceptible to what they've been susceptible to all year, the run game. And I think that the offense just won't do quite enough to make up for it. And I don't think this necessarily means that they're going to really fall off the rest of the way. But like you said, the schedule down the stretch for their weakness against the run game, it's not going to be good. They're going to have to figure something out, and they're just going to have to hope that the offense can pick things back up enough to make it not as much of a factor. But yeah, that's definitely my upset pick of the week for that. Lastly, a Monday night special, boys. Oh, Jesus. Let's go to Zach on this one. Pitt at Indianapolis.
Look, I know it didn't get flexed because it's a Monday night game, but yes. Good Lord. I know we had a lot of higher expectations for both of these teams. Pittsburgh gets the win, and that's only because I don't think that Indianapolis is going to have enough offensively. TJ Watt is a difference maker for the Pittsburgh Steelers. We talked about it time and time again. And what do the Colts do best? Run the football. I don't think that Jonathan Taylor is going to be able to run freely against TJ Watt when TJ Watt is in. It's just not something I envision to see. So if they can't run the football, as much as moving back to Matt Ryan is better than Sam Ehlinger, I don't think it's going to mean. Is Minka still playing? Is Minka not hurt?
Minka's playing.
All right, then we're fine. Yeah, I with the way that these two teams, I've not looked at rosters much, so the surprise injuries kind of get me from here to there. But yeah, no, it's just not going to be. It's not going to be a fun time for Indianapolis. Another rough week. I think people are just burying Pittsburgh because they want to bury Pittsburgh. I know it's a home game, but there's a lot more surprising home underdogs and home favorites than this one. Like, this one's a bit more surprising to see.
What do you think, Tony?
I also have the Steelers getting a win. I think their defense with TJ Watt is just completely changed. Like, even though their secondary kind of sucks, Higgins isn't on the other sideline to haunt you this time. So the defense is going to clamp up at the Colts offense. Their offensive line played really well last week. It's not going to happen again. Like, you can't, it's a bad offensive line. You're not going to string together back-to-back, like, crazy good performances, especially going against TJ Watt. And then the Steelers offense, I think, is starting to figure some things out. They were able to get Najee Harris.
Oh, yeah.
George Pickens, he had an incredible game, and he dropped another 50-yard touchdown. Like, I think Kenny Pickett is starting to figure out when he can push the ball downfield, and he's really good when he does. So we're going to just see, I think it's going to be close, but Pittsburgh, I think, is a better team and is trending in the right direction.
I was going to say, we didn't get to talk about the point explosion last week at all.
Yeah, it was they're fireworks.
For me, weirdly enough, I do not agree with you guys. I think Indianapolis wins 20-17. I think that Steelers offense showed more last week than they've showed all year, but I do not think it's anything tangible that they can continue to build off of because I don't trust Matt Canada to continue to allow it to happen. So honestly, I think that their defense has been unbelievable this year. And as much as the Steelers defense with TJ Watt should be much better, we saw last week against, granted, a really good offensive team in the Bengals, they still are very susceptible to the pass game. Even with Matt Ryan at quarterback, I think that Pittman could have a 150-yard day against us. No joke. I think that that's very much possible. We do not have anyone who can check him. Not one person. Unless you want to try to make Minkah play outside corner in this game, no one is going to match up with Michael Pittman. It just isn't a good matchup. I think that the Colts will do just enough offensively, and the Steelers will not be able to do enough offensively. So that's my prediction. But hope I'm wrong. But I will have to, unfortunately, watch that game as much as I maybe don't want to.
I think we all will.
Hey, another prop shout out. You shouted out the over 2.5 interceptions. I would love to see what the line is for touchdown. Okay, well, it goes into what I was about to say. I would love to see the line for Peterman's interceptions right now.
Oh, I'm sure it's fantastic. It's beautiful. But yeah, that'll do it. Yeah. 5 in each half. Yeah. No, I think what we should do is, do we see David Montgomery play?
Oh, please. Oh my God. That would be amazing.
That'd be the more fun.
I think we're going to see double-digit Wildcat plays.
That'd be fun.
I already saw the tweet. It said tired. It was, Justin Fields versus Zach Wilson. Wired. Nathan Peterman versus Mike White.
Absolutely beautiful. All right, we're gonna let everybody get out of here. Thank you so much for watching. Anyone watching at home, I definitely hope that you have a good week watching football. Even though the matchups are a little bit weird this week, but definitely enjoy the weekend. Enjoy some. Try to enjoy Monday night. If you want to. I don't know. I probably won't, and we're gonna sign off here. Thanks everybody for watching.